So the first lesson that school should have taught you is that there is no destination. For so many of us, we project onto our future, whether it's a position that we want to be in, a relationship that we want to have, a job that we want to have, whatever that looks like. We are always projecting onto where we like to be instead of where we are. And I think what we fail to recognize is that each place that you get to simply marks the beginning of another journey that you will begin going towards. And so the first mountain that you climb and you get to the top is not the only mountain. It's only the beginning to the next mountain that you want to climb. And so rather than projecting onto the future of where you'd like to be, it is immensely important to get really comfortable in being grounded in where you are. And that doesn't mean to stop striving for the next thing, but it's to actually optimize for enjoyment instead of progress. Because if you're always focused on the next thing that you want to achieve, or the next place that you want to get to, or the next relationship that you want to build, then you will neglect the life that is right in front of you. Life is what happens while you plan for the future. And if you're always looking for the next thing that you want to do, well, you're going to miss out on what life is. And so there is no destination. There's no place that you're going to get to that the happiness is there. There's no place that you're going to get to that the abundance is there, because abundance is not wealth, but it is a mindset. And if you can take that on in your life, I guarantee you that it will change the way that you live your life, and you will achieve more without trying to achieve so much more, because that's the kind of energy that you exude into the world. The second lesson that school should have taught you is that your life is a reflection of your consciousness. Good things come into your life because you have programs to support them. Bad things come into your life because you have programs to support them. From 0 to 6, 7 years old, we have the programs that have been ingrained into us about who we are, about the life that we're supposed to live, about the life that we are worthy of, and everything in between. And if you are always trying to defend a life that you have, you will never create a life that you want to create, because a victim mindset gets you absolutely nowhere. And if you defend the limits that you have, or defend the kind of person that you are, you will never open up space to create the kind of person that you can become, or the life that you can create for yourself. And this is so important, because when I grew up, the mindset that I had was, why is this happening to me? It was always, why is this happening to me? It was the mindset that I took on of the victim mindset. And there was a day when I asked myself, how is this happening for me, rather than why is this happening to me, that my life continued and proceeded to change, because I looked through life through a different lens of, this is supporting me. I may not be able to see it now. I may never be able to see it, but taking on that belief is useful for me. It may not be true, but it's useful. And that's something that I spoke about with Derek Sivers in a podcast that was very, very impactful. And I think it's very impactful to take on this in your life, is that when you are always trying to defend what you have, you're never going to make room for what can be. Third lesson that school should have taught you is that the question of, what do I want to be when I grow up, is not helpful. But the question that you really should be asking yourself is, what problem do I want to solve? Because when you think in the lens of, what problem do I want to solve, in your everyday life, you're going to start to pick out things that don't really make sense to you. Something that never made sense to me is, why would I work for $20 an hour and that's the only thing that I can do? No matter what I do, no matter how much effort I put in, that is the limit of what I can get. Never made sense to me. Never made any sense to me. And a problem with that is that many people are coasting through life in a job that they don't love, rather than putting themselves in a position to take on more than they can handle and figure it out along that journey. And so when I stepped into coaching, I thought, I don't really feel like I'm ready for this. And most of the coaches that I was surrounded by weren't ready either. But what it did was, it forced me to see myself through a different lens, forced me to recognize that, losing family growing up was, I thought, hurting me, but it was really helping me, because it helped me gain a different perspective of, I need to live with more intention. I can't just coast through life thinking that life is just going to happen to me, and think and opportunities are just going to come my way. I have to create those opportunities. And so the problem that I want to solve is helping people get to a life without regret, or as minimum regret as they can, because they lived with intention. They spent every day, every second of their life doing what they felt like they should be doing. And so with this podcast, I feel called to do it. I felt like I had to be speaking to this through this mic, and speaking to the people that I speak to. And when you feel compelled to do something, you were going to feel so much more excited to wake up in the morning and actually do it. When I had a podcast with Mark Sisson, he built a company that sold for over $200 billion. And what he said was that the thing that always helped him in his life was, he always went towards the things that he felt compelled to go towards, the problems that he felt to solve. And so for you, instead of thinking of, what do I want to be when I grow up, or what do I want to do, think of, what do you feel compelled to go towards? What problem do you feel like you need to be solving in the world? What's something that just doesn't make sense to you, that you need to figure out how you can solve it for someone else, or even solve it for yourself? And I think that question in itself will help you propel so much in your life, and actually lead you towards things that are more purposeful, instead of just passing time. And I think that that's something that so many of us are going through life, just feeling so purposeless. And it's sad. And I don't want that to happen. And I know you don't want that to happen either. This podcast is kindly brought to you by Magic Mind. Now, if you're anything like me, you love coffee, but you hate the jitters that it gives you in that 2 p.m. slump in the afternoon when you still have a lot of day left, but you're not able to be focused throughout that time. And this is why I love Magic Mind. I've been taking it with my morning coffee. It's a small productivity shot that I absolutely love. It's with matcha, which takes longer to release in your body. So instead of feeling slumped at 2 p.m., you actually have that intentional focus and it reduces stress. So I take it with my morning coffee. It helps me drink less coffee, but actually feel focused and not wired throughout the day, which is so impactful because if you're a podcaster or you're taking calls or you're just in general, you need to be focused and have that mental energy. It's been something that's really helpful for me. I've been using it for a few weeks and I guarantee that you will like it. So if you're anything like me and you want to feel focused but not wired, you can go to magicmind.com/youcan2 for 56% off. Yes, 56% off your first subscription. And for your first one-time payment, you can get 20% off, which is insane to say the least because they have a 100% money back guarantee with no questions asked. And instead of waiting 3 to 5 days for that money back, they'll refund you in 3 to 4 hours because they believe in it. And I believe in it so much. So that's magicmind.com/youcan2 for up to 56% off your first subscription. And if you already use Magic Mind, you can get a discount off your next subscription payment as well. So it's magicmind.com/youcan2. Try it for a few weeks, see if you like it. I bet you that you will, and you will feel a lot more intentional with your day instead of just so wired and really just exhausted by the end of the day. Back to the episode. The fourth lesson that school should have taught you is that who you are and who you think you are two separate people. And this is so important to understand because when we label ourselves as a stagnant idea, an identity of I'm not a confident person, you're going to go through life acting as though you were not a confident person. And it doesn't have to be true, but it has to be useful for you. So when I started stepping into coaching and starting this podcast, I didn't feel so very confident, but I knew that I had to do what I had to do to put myself in a position to succeed. I had to go towards what I felt compelled to go towards, as I was just speaking about. And so creating proof in that was me putting myself in a position to say, okay, maybe I don't feel confident right now, but what can I do to make myself feel confident? What can I do to put myself in a position to actually create the results that I want to create for myself? And so rather than thinking of yourself of this is just who I am, I want you to think of who do I want to become and what actions do I have to take to actually make that identity seem legit? Like, what do I have to do to make myself actually believe? Because you can't fool yourself that I am a confident person. And when you ask those kind of questions and you do those type of actions, you will become the kind of person that you are capable of becoming. Because who you are and who you think you are two separate people. Because who you think you are is always limiting. Every one of us is our own worst critic. And so if you're always identifying with the person that you think you are rather than who you can become or who you want to be, you're always going to create limits for yourself and never create a life that you're worthy of creating. And this is so, so important. Sometimes you just need an external perspective to help really take you out of the picture because sometimes it's hard to see the picture while you're in the frame. And so sometimes you need someone else outside of you to help you see something that you can't even see in yourself, help you believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And that's something that I've definitely recognized over hiring coaching, thousands of dollars of coaching over these past few years. Number 5 is that failure is not final, but it is feedback. When we take a test, we feel like we are the failure if we were to fail at that thing. And that's why I hate the school system. It never made sense to me. But what's important is to understand is that failure is there to help you improve, to become a better version of yourself, not to only focus on your shortfalls of the things that where you failed. You want to focus on where you failed rather than looking at where did I succeed. And so in everything in life, rather than seeing failure as a final destination or a representation of your self-worth, I want you to see it as an opportunity to become a better version of yourself. And when you see it through a different lens, it will have a different impact on you because your perspective is your power. And when you change your perspective, you change the impact that something can have on you and ultimately the whole direction of your life in itself. Number 6 is that happiness is a skill and is not a destination nor a state. For many of us, we feel as though when I am on a beach or I'm in the position that I want to be in, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to get to the point where I can be content where I'm at. But what if the happiness that you're looking for is something that you need to build within yourself? It's a skill that you can acquire instead of a state that you have to find. Like the idea of the pursuit of happiness is bullshit because when you think about it, the pursuit of happiness means that it's something in the future. It's somewhere in the future. And if you're always looking in the future, thinking that the next thing that I acquire, the next achievement that I get to is where your happiness is going to be, well, then you are going to miss out on what life is. You're going to miss out on all of what life has in store for you. So when you change your expectations, you change your life because what happiness really is reality minus expectations. And so it's not that your thoughts are the problem, but it's your interpretation of your thoughts. It's not the environment that you're in, but it's your interpretation of your environment. Because life isn't what happens around you, but it's how you see what happens around you. And that's a really big distinction. And the last thing that school should have taught you is that you get ahead by building skills, not working hours. And this is something that I recognized really early on, was that no matter what I do, I'm going to make $20 an hour. No matter how much effort I put in, that is all I can make. And that never made sense to me. I was furious and it never made sense to me. And I think for so many of us, we're thinking the more effort that I put in, the more opportunity that I'm going to create, the more that I'll get ahead. But think about it as on levels. Because if you're right here, and for those that are listening on Apple or Spotify, go to YouTube because it's better to be there anyway, and subscribe. But when you think of it on, this is, no matter what I do, this is where I'm going to be. And it's a constant of, there is no way I can get ahead. But if you put yourself in a position in a sales role or in an opportunity where you can actually increase your income, you can increase the skills that you build, you will increase your opportunity to create opportunities. And so it's not how much you work, because hard work is really not the answer, but it's working on the right things. And I think that that's a really big, important distinction in life, because many of us are working really hard on the wrong things. And so we never get ahead. But if you switch the lens that you see life through and start working on different things, you can work a lot less hard and make it so less strenuous on yourself and still get ahead in the same time. Because the people that are ahead of you are not doing more work than you. They're probably working less realistically, but they're working on the right things. And that's what allows them to get ahead. So I appreciate you for tuning in. If any of these resonated with you, share them on your stories. I would love to connect with you. I appreciate you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.